I'm out on the Southern Upland Way over England, and as you come down from the Lowther Hills here, you get to the A702 and just follow it for a few hundred yards before turning off on the path to Dare Reservoir. As you come down to the road, you cross a small ditch, which appears to be nothing special, but this is actually one of the oldest historic sites on the route, as it's the line of a Roman road. If you follow the road north, it goes to Elvenfoot, where it meets another Roman road that went from Hadrian's Wall in the south to the Antonine Wall in the central belt. But today I'm going to follow it in the other direction. The Roman history that is most well known in northern Britain is Hadrian's Wall. This is a spectacular wall that runs 73 miles between the west coast of northern England near Carlisle and Wallsend near Newcastle on the east coast. It was ordered to be built by the Emperor Hadrian in 122 AD in order to defend Roman Britain from the Celt barbarians who lived in the north. After Hadrian died, the new Emperor Antoninus decided he wanted to push further north to conquer the northern tribes. To do this, he ordered a new wall to be built in the central belt between the Firth of Clyde and the Firth of Forth. This is known as the Antonine Wall. It was started in 142 AD and it took 12 years to complete. So for just a few years, southern Scotland was right at the frontier of the Roman Empire. During this time, a number of roads and forts were built in the area to help move troops between the two walls and attempt to pacify the area. Of these forts, a number are near the line of the Southern Upland Way. There's one at Beatock and another at Lauder, but these are hard to find and there's not much to see on the ground. If you follow this Roman road, however, it soon leads away from the line of the A702 and up into the hills along this track. The modern road heads down the Dalveen Pass, but this, the Roman road, heads up to the Durisdeer Pass. It's a fantastic walk and it leads to one of the best Roman forts to visit. This is known as the Well Path. It's a core path and it makes a great circular day walk because there's a clear track on one side of the valley and a rough path on the other. You can do it starting from the Southern Upland Way as I've done today, but to do it as a day walk it actually makes more sense to start from the village of Durisdeer, because then you can walk up the track on one side of the valley and then down the path on the other. As we walk down the pass towards the village of Durisdeer, we pass an impressive earthwork. This is Durisdeer Roman Fortlet. It's very small for a Roman fort and would only have housed a couple of dozen soldiers. It was built in the 2nd century AD, around the time that the Antonine Wall was in use. Its purpose was to guard the road and to see who was using it to come over Durisdeer Pass. It's built on a natural spur of land that sticks out in the middle of the valley. This means it's got both an incredibly defensive position but also amazing views over the local countryside. It's amazingly well preserved for a Roman fort. You can clearly see the ditches and ramparts that would have provided the defensive fortifications, also the entrance where you would have come in and out, and the area in the middle where buildings would have been. Of course, there only would have been a very small number of soldiers here to deal with minor problems. The main force was further down the road. The soldiers who served here would have been auxiliaries rather than legionaries. These were soldiers recruited from conquered lands all over the Roman Empire. They were paid only a third of what legionaries would be paid, although if they worked for 25 years in the Roman army, they would be granted citizenship. They were seen by the Romans as lower class, so they were often placed in the most remote, inhospitable and dangerous locations, such as Scotland. As we pass through the village of Durisdeer, the line of the Roman road moves off the rough track and back onto the modern road. If you're in the area, it's well worth stopping here and having a look at Durisdeer Church and the amazing Queensberry marbles. I'm now at Drumlanrig Castle, and this would have been the other end of the Roman road. In the grounds of this impressive Renaissance house are the remains of a much larger Roman fort. Although there's nothing on the grounds today that you can see to show what was once here, 20 years ago a time team investigation unearthed an impressive site. Around 500 Roman soldiers would have lived in the fort here, and if the fortlet at Durisdeer had seen a horde of Celts coming through the mountain pass, they would have sent a rider down here, and it is this fort that would have sent out the cohort to deal with them. Both the fort here and the one at Durisdeer were only used for a very short period of time. In 162 AD, just 8 years after it was completed, the Antonine Wall was abandoned and the Romans moved south to the much stronger defences of Hadrian's Wall. Although there were a few more attempts by the Romans to move further north in the 3rd century, they were never successful, and the Celtic tribes of Scotland remained undefeated. Hadrian's Wall was the northern frontier of the Roman Empire right up until Britain was abandoned by the Romans at around 400 AD. When the Romans abandoned their forts, they normally tore them down and burnt what was left to prevent anyone else from using them, so it's very rare that much survives. Durisdeer is one of the best preserved in the country, so it's definitely worth going to have a look if you're in the area. Unfortunately, it's too far away from the Southern Upland Way to make a detour if you're walking the route, but it does make a fantastic circular walk if you're in the area. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please do click the like button below. I am going to be doing more of this sort of video in the future, so if you've enjoyed it, please subscribe so you don't miss more. And thank you very much for watching.